Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Welcome to a special episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host and executive producer, Bruce Hutchin, and we're heading out to Ohio, and we're going to join up with Ethan Featheroff. And Ethan is a special guy, and that's why this is a special podcast. Is he special because he took a 215-inch buck last year, came out number 2 in Ohio last year? Yeah, that makes him a special hunter, but he's a special person because, as you'll hear on the show today, he's gone through some things that few of us will have to go to. So, Ethan, welcome to the show. And let's start off with your story. Let's just let people know how you got to today and what you had to overcome.
Yeah, absolutely. So it kind of starts in 2014 was kind of when my life changed. I got in an accident at my work. I had a door kind of hit my face and I almost lost my life, and I've been dealing with a lot of surgeries ever since. And I guess that was what you could call a humble beginning, and it led to me having the opportunity to take my deer. And I didn't really know where it was going to go. And then, like I said, I had a messed up shoulder as well, and I had a torn bicep and a separated shoulder. I was thanking the Lord that I got that deer on the first day of bow season, because if it had gone any farther, I wouldn't have even been able to pull back my bow and get that deer. And I had surgery immediately after on my shoulder, and I was all slinged up. And if you get on the internet at all, you can look me up in North American Whitetail, and you can kind of read a little bit more on that story there as well. And I'll do my best.
What's the name of the story, Ethan? What's the name of the story?
It's a hunter postpones surgery to shoot giant non-typical. And then if you just put in Ethan Featheroff buck, you can actually see it there, and you'll actually see me slinged up with my buck in one of the pictures. It's kind of a neat little thing there. But yeah, man, like I said, I'm just blessed to be here today and to be able to have these opportunities to share with everybody. So thanks for having me on.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Let's go back to 2014 when your life changed. Were you married then or not?
I was in the process of getting married. I was engaged, and that was one of the testaments that I had with my wife. She told me, it doesn't matter what you look like going into the wedding, I'm still marrying you, and I'm still going to love you just the same. And kind of brought tears to my eyes when I was sitting there in the hospital, because, you know, when you look like that, and it's a life-changing thing, it's like, I don't know if I'm ever going to recover from this. And to her, it didn't matter. She was just there by my side the whole time. So I'm just thankful. Now I got 2 awesome children. I got a daughter that's about to turn 4. Her name's Cammie, and my son Bo, who's 2. And man, it's just been awesome.
How many surgeries did you have to reconstruct your face? Because if you're seeing this on YouTube, folks, Ethan, you really can't tell.
Yeah,
what he's been through.
Just on my face alone, I think I've had 8 surgeries, and I'm going in March 12th for another consultation, and I'm probably going to have to get more bone grafts so I can finish getting my implants for the rest of my teeth that I had lost. But yeah, man, it turned out a lot better than expected.
What did happen? Did a door just fall on you or come apart? Or
it's called an airplane hanger door, and there's wires that pull it up and it kind of folds into itself. Well, one of those wires snapped and it shot a bar out, and that bar kind of went through the left side of my face and just ripped it all open. They said I was fortunate that I was as tall as I was, because any taller or any shorter, it probably would have either went through the top of my head or through my throat. And then I was honestly just the right height that I'm still alive and I'm here today. So thank God for that.
I think the big guy upstairs has something to do with that. That's my take of it. You know,
absolutely, man.
There's a reason for everything, and sometimes we don't understand it. But as you've shared, because of your surgeries, you had a lot to overcome. Then all of a sudden you tore your bicep, your shoulder went, but you still went deer hunting. Let's start telling the story about your wonderful buck and how you knew he was there.
Well, I started off with my typical routine. You know, it gets getting close to summertime, June hit, and I was like, well, I'm going to go to my most trusted places, put out my cameras and just see what's out there. And just happened to be this farm was a farm that I've been hunting all my life, and I had never seen this deer prior to this year. At least I didn't recognize him. he was coming out with a deer that I recognized from previous years and had footage of. I let my camera go till about the beginning of July, and I checked it, and he was the first buck on there. And I was just like, once you see a deer of that caliber, your heart just kind of drops. Like, wow, I have a serious opportunity here. So my next mission was I waited till it rained to go back in there because I didn't want to put a bunch just sitting there. And that's just something for me that I always do is I wait for a good rain to go in there and keep my scent down. I started trickling cameras just a little bit farther back off the bean field.
And so you had him right on the edge? Your initial camera was on the edge?
Right on the edge of the bean field, and I caught him out in the bean field. And then from that point on, I just started trickling cameras farther back trails, hoping that I could find his bed. And I found him on several different trails really far back in the woods, and I was able to really pinpoint where he was bedded. And once I found that, I kind of stayed out of his bedding area. I got him just coming out into the field. I kind of put a little bit of food on the edge of the field just to see if I could get him coming to it. And he did for a while, but the closer it got to the season, he knew that he could pick up my scent there, and he just wouldn't come to it. So I set up farther off of the food, I would say about 50 yards from where he was coming out into the field. And I was fortunate to, the big 8-pointer that was with him came out first, and I had to watch that deer forever. And it wasn't forever. It seemed like an eternity when you got two monster deer. The 8-pointer is probably close to 160, and the 200-incher was right behind him. I was trying to swing my camera arm around to get some good footage of the kill shot, and they both looked right up at me, and my heart just dropped because I knew.
Oh no, dude!
I knew.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I knew I was had at that point. Well, he started to turn to walk away, and I drew back. I had ranged this spot in this field over and over again because I almost knew exactly where he was going to go. I stopped him at 35 yards, and I just
let you stop him. You grunt.
I just gave the little classic meh, and 35 yards, he stops, kind of turns and looks back at me, and I let that arrow fly, and I seen it go perfectly behind the shoulder. And it didn't go all the way through because it kind of caught the other leg because he was quartering away.
Yeah.
And the arrow actually snapped off perfectly in his heart, and he went about 30 yards up into the woods and fell over, and I heard him crash. And it was an emotional moment. I started crying. I was like, oh my gosh, this was everything you ever dreamed of. It happened. And then of course, so at that point I started to climb down out of the tree, and I just sat there and took some breaths, and I called my dad and I let him know. I was like, Dad, I did it. I actually got a 200-inch deer. I'm fairly confident that the shot was perfect. And I just called all my family members. I called my best friend, Kevin, was the next person I called, and I let them know I did it. And I was so teared up. They didn't even understand what I was saying half the time. They're like, you did what? I was like, I got him.
You were babbling.
Yeah. I was like, I really got the deer that I was after. Like, I never imagined in my lifetime that I would harvest a deer of that caliber. And of course, then I waited a while, probably about a half hour, because I knew the shot was good. In my head, I knew it was good. It looked good. And I walked over to the edge of the bean field where he was standing last, and I was just finding little bits of blood. And there wasn't much on the arrow, but I was like, I know I heard him go down right inside the woods. So I was like, I'm just going to peek my head inside the woods here and see if I can see anything. He was right there. He was laying there all curled up, and I was just like, that was even more emotional. I started crying and just had to thank God for the opportunity to even see a deer like that, let alone harvest it, And here I am today talking to you guys, and I've been fortunate to travel around. I went to the ATA this year and got to share my story with a lot of awesome people there, and hopefully more great things to come. And I'll be able to continue to share my story and success and inspire people. That's the biggest thing, is I want to inspire people to chase their dreams and realize you can do it. I mean, I'm just an average guy. If I can do it, you can do it. Anybody can do it. You got to put in the time and the effort. It doesn't come easy, but it will come if you want it to.
One thing that I'd just like to interject, you cannot kill a 200-inch deer if there's no 200 deer on your property.
That's absolutely true. And I wouldn't say for anybody to go out and only try to hunt 200-inch deer, because for me, I've shot 115-inch deer that meant just as much to me as that 200-inch deer. I'm not one of those people that thinks you need to go out and shoot a big deer. You can only take what's available to you. And at the end of the day, you got to shoot what makes you happy as a hunter. That's really all that matters. You shouldn't try to please anybody else or anything like that. I mean, every animal you harvest is a trophy. That's kind of how I look at it. And some people don't, they think you just got to go after that big buck. And I'm just fortunate to live in Ohio where we can see deer like that.
Now, let's go back and talk about that. So the first time you saw her on camera was in July. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you had when did you set your cameras out?
June is when I set my cameras out.
Okay. So just on the bean field, just on the edge, you knew deer, you could see sign. And
the crazy thing is, anybody that goes out with me that sets cameras and set stands, they think I'm a madman because I obsess about hunting. I knew exactly where I was putting that stand before I even set the camera out. And I set the stand up the day that I set the camera out because it was just a property that I've hunted so much that I knew the habits of the deer and I knew where they were going to go and where they were coming from. And every suspicion that I had of where this deer was bedding already, he was there. And this was just my knowledge based off of past years hunting this property.
Where do you think he came from? Because in the previous year, he wasn't on your hit list. You didn't recognize him, and all deer have characteristics. If you spend as much time as you do, you would have picked him up. You would have gone, he's an up-and-comer, and just configuration of his body, all different things.
I pegged him as a 5-year-old deer. He could have been there previous years. He could have, at the time, maybe just been a mainframe 10, and then that one side, something happened and it blew up. Because if you look at some of the pictures, you can see when I turn him, like one side looks normal, like a mainframe 10, and then the other side he's actually a 13x7. Honestly, I couldn't tell you because most of the property around there is either my friends or family own it, and they never got pictures of him either. So I honestly believe that he was a deer that was on the property that I just didn't recognize. And I'm really going to have to go back and do some homework and look at other trail cam photos and give you a better response to that because I may look at that and say, okay, I do recognize him. He's this deer. It's crazy.
Yeah. So we got cameras out in July and he pops up there. Then obviously he became your hit list number one.
Absolutely.
And then your stand's already set up. And then you went to confirm his bedding area. Why'd you do that?
I went to confirm his bedding area because I wanted to make sure I was set up in the right spot. If I wasn't in the right spot, I was going to move that stand somewhere else. I had honestly thought about, because our season starts September 29th, and by that time, sometimes the deer come off their feeding pattern, and they quit eating in those fields regularly. They'll come to them, but with the time change, it kind of starts getting darker and darker when they get out to that field. And I had thought, well, maybe he's not going to come out till after dark. Should I find the trails that he's using from his bedding area and get back in the woods and just beat him before he even gets to that field? That was the first thing in my mind. But the trail cam pictures that I was getting of him the closer the season started was still between 3 and 6 o'clock. So I knew there was plenty of daylight hours that I could harvest this deer. So
there's no pressure on your farm.
No pressure. Only the pressure that I put on there.
Yeah.
Sometimes I learned from previous mistakes of hunting big deer not to check your camera so much because the more scent you put in there, the more they catch on to you. I was fortunate enough one other time to hunt a deer that scored 198 inches. I'm not exactly sure what happened to that deer. My friend actually ended up finding him dead in his backyard. We're thinking that he might have actually got hit by a car and just wound up dead there. But I was hunting him hard, and I can tell you that I did see him on the first day of the season, but he knew exactly where I was at. And I had just put way too much sitting there too often. So I knew this time around, it's like I'm going to check my cams at the max. I would check them 2 weeks, but usually sometimes I would wait, 3 weeks before I would check them just because I wanted to keep that scent out of there. I knew he was hanging out there. I knew the least pressure, the best.
Yeah. And you mentioned also using a rainstorm. Now, did you go in before the rain so it would wash away? Or did you go after the rain so it would absorb your scent?
Most of the time I would go during the rain. We had a lot of rain this summer in Ohio. When it rained, I would go in there and check my cameras because I'm a firm believer that rain keeps your scent down and washes it away.
Yeah, it washes it. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
Categorically say that it's just like you taking a shower and it just takes it and it dissipates it. It disperses it. And that's just what happened.
A lot of people say I'm a madman, but when I went in there, the wind was blowing right in both of those deer's faces. They didn't know I was there based on scent. They only knew I was there when I let them know I was there, swinging the camera arm around. I was fortunate, though, that the area that I hunt, there's oil wells, and those oil wells almost mask the scent of anything in there. And all I could smell through the air was the oil well blowing right into those deer's faces.
And the sound, are they clanging? Are the arms clanging and everything?
Yeah, it doesn't bother the deer. They're so used to it. And I honestly use that to my advantage because it takes away some of the noise that you're making, and it covers your scent. Like, they're so used to that smell that it's just a great scent cover.
It's a masking.
Absolutely, man. And like, use whatever you got in your surroundings to give you an advantage. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, because the oil particles are just masking your scent and mixing it up. They can get a whiff of you, obviously. So why do you think they looked up at you?
They saw the flash of that camera coming around my side because I put it on my left-hand side, and I put it almost down kind of low. So, because I figured I was probably going to be taking a sitting down shot, so I wanted the camera low. I reached around and I swung it around, and as soon as I pointed the camera towards him, it kind of flashed in the sunlight because the sun at that point was just beaming right at me. I'm like, this is just all bad. And the big 8 he was the closest one to me, and he looked up, and it kind of alerted the other one, and they started to walk away. And I don't know for sure that they were going to leave the field, but they were walking in the wrong direction, so I knew it was now or never. I was confident in the shot, 35 yards. That is one of the shots I practice regularly because I knew he was going to be in about that distance where he came out. With a deer of that caliber, or any mature buck really, that once they get out into that open field, they're scanning, they're looking, they're sniffing. They want to see, what's going on out here.
They're on full radar alert.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything's going that can go. They've lived long enough to know that they can have surprises.
Yeah, kind of a neat thing. After I harvested that deer, there was a lot of bucks in that field. I would say 15 to 20 different bucks coming out using that field early season. None of those other bucks wanted to hang out on that side of the field where that buck was. As soon as I harvested that buck, those other deer started creeping down, taking over his territory. It was neat to see that process. Those deer wanted nothing to do with that when he was down there.
Well, he was the guy. He was the dominant buck. He was the bully buck. He was the buck. The
big 8 that was with him, he disappeared the day after I shot that deer. He showed up one time on camera, and I've never seen him again. And I'm hoping he comes back next year because he's an absolute beautiful deer, and I don't think I could pass him twice unless he has another 200-inch deer with him, which I'm hoping maybe he will.
Yeah. My good friend Josh Honeycutt from Realtree shot a 160-something, 170-something early season in the velvet 8-pointer. Just a huge, huge 8-point. And he said that was such a thrill to see a big 8 like that. I mean, they're just...
Oh, absolutely. So beautiful.
Just monsters. So you got your story, and then all of a sudden your world blew up because it got a little viral on social media. And then tell me about that.
Well, I posted that picture, and as you can tell from my picture, like, I was no professional, and I'm still no professional. I was just kind of a redneck taking pictures of my buck that I was super excited about. I posted the picture, and next thing you know, I wake up and the next morning, and it had 240,000 views, and it was getting shared all over the place, and people were calling me saying, hey, we want to hear your story. How'd you get this deer? Is this legit? And I said, yes, it's legit. I got him on the first day and briefed him a little bit on my story. And ever since then, my social media has been crazy. My friends list at one point on Facebook, it maxed out at 5,000 just from other hunters messaging me or wanting to see my deer and stuff like that. I had my webpage, Featheroff Outdoors. I had that running for about 4 years now, and it never really got big until this year. And then I started another webpage, Born to Be Wild. I guess I kind of thought that name was more catchy and other people could relate to it. The first one was something I started with my friends when we were younger because we're like, let's just make a webpage to share our deer and tell funny stories. We never really thought it'd become anything, and now it's becoming something. So it's kind of humbling, and it's just awesome, man. I don't know what else to say about it. Hopefully everybody comes and likes my page.
Let's tell people how they can find you on social media.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Featheroff Outdoors, or Born to Be Wild Outdoors. Just click on the link and like our page. Give us a shout out, share your animals. We love to see anybody's animals. It doesn't matter the size, just everything has a story to it. And that's more for me what I like to see is people's story. What got you into hunting? Why'd you start? I guess I could share a little bit of that for me. what got me into hunting. My dad got me into hunting when I was 4 years old. I was being his rabbit dog, chasing rabbits around for him, and he'd give me a little black BB gun, and I thought it was just the coolest thing. As I got a little bit older, he started me off with a single shot 20 gauge, because my dad said, I'm not going to give you a pump because you need to learn how to shoot. He said, when you consistently kill animals with a single shot, then you're going to get your pump. Well, shot my first deer, was a button buck with a single shot, and then that's when he bought me my bow, and I really got into bow hunting. Well, excuse me, no. He gifted me a bow that was my grandpa's that had passed away of a heart attack. I was the only other person in my family that was left-handed. So that bow meant so much to me to have that. And I remember my dad went out and sat in one spot, and he told me to go down and sit in the other spot. And I shot a pretty big 12-pointer with my first bow kill. And at the time, I was still using aluminum arrows, just my fingers, pulling this bow back that had a draw length that was way too big for me at the time. And I shot a really nice 12-pointer. And to me, that got me absolutely hooked on archery. That moment I shared with my dad and shoot that deer with my grandpa's bow. To this day, that hunt will mean more to me than shooting a 200-inch deer, just because of the story behind it. And it's kind of molded me into the hunter that I am today.
That's great. What do you think about social media? And I'm sure you've seen it, that sometimes people aren't very nice.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
I think a lot of it's just, some of it could be jealousy, but people don't realize that we're just humans that have been fortunate to shoot a big deer, and we're doing the same things they are. I had so many people instantly message me, say that was a pen raised deer, or you poached it, or those type of things. And I'm here to tell you, I'm just an average working class man. I can't afford to spend the money to shoot me a big pen raised deer like that. Absolutely not. No pen raised. I don't really know why people want to hate, man. I guess I don't know if it's in their blood or what, or they just feel like they can do it because they're behind a keyboard. It's unfortunate. The worst thing for me that I see is when a hunter posts, an animal that makes him proud, but maybe it's not the biggest. And then people get on there and they're so rude to him. Like that frustrates me to no other, because that deer or whatever it is means something to that person. And if they're happy with it, then I'm happy for them. And that means the world to them. One thing that I love to do when I see a hunter post something on my page, I'll personal message that person and tell them, congratulations, how'd you get it? Because I want to hear the story, because people I wouldn't say they look up to me. Maybe they do. I don't know. But they see my deer and they think that I'm an accomplished hunter. And just for me to sit and listen to just another average person like I am, they respect that. And it means the world to them just for someone to sit and listen. And that's what I love to do. Inspire, maybe. I don't know where I'm going with it.
Hey, let's give a shout out. Move your camera so we can kill a food plots. Let's give a shout out for Nick Piercy.
Yeah, Nick.
How'd you get connected with Nick?
Yeah, first off, let me say Nick is an awesome dude, and I'm so thankful for him, man. He gave me some opportunities, taking me to the ATA this year, and really just allowing me to share my story with people. And I met Nick through social media, actually. My partner, Noah Barnett, he's the one that runs my social media accounts. He actually contacted you as well and set up this interview for me. I got to talking to Nick, and he said he had some partners here in Ohio, and he introduced me to them. And Nick came down here, and he actually met my family. He played with my kids and met my wife, and he actually came to my house. And to me, that meant a lot to me, just to have somebody that was going to be a potential sponsor, just a partner and friend of mine, just to come down and get to know me. It wasn't just about my deer. And like I said, that was awesome. And Nick sharing his story with me and where he came from and how he started. Very inspirational guy, man. He's inspired me to do so much. His team, like I said, I'll be with them March 17th, I believe, at the Ohio Deer and Turkey Expo. And hopefully I'm fortunate enough to share my story with some more people there. But yeah, if you guys don't know about Killer Food Plots, look them up, man. They got everything you need for food plots. They have scent sprays, all kinds of awesome products that could help you out. So yeah, that's kind of how I met Nick.
Well, Nick, that one's for you, Nick. Is there anything you'd like to share before we close this up?
Yeah, I just want to tell everyone, chase your dreams. Don't give up on it. People laughed in my face when they thought when I told them this is what I'm going to do, and feel like, I'm living proof that you can chase your dreams. If I can do it, anyone can do it. I just want to inspire kids, reach for the stars. And if you need someone to talk to or you want help, reach out to me, Ethan Featheroff. You can message me on my personal page. I'm willing to do anything to help a local hunter or just anyone out in general. And we do a lot of giveaways. Everything that I got from the ATA this year, you might have seen me going to booths collecting. I gave everything that I had away because I just see so many local hunters around here, little kids, and I'm just like, I see them out shooting their bows and stuff, and I just go up and I'll give them something because just to see the smile on their face meant so much more than me having that product. That's what I want to do, is just give and inspire, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Thanks for having me on the show, man. This means the world to me.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I look forward to connecting down the road. And with that, we'll say thank you for listening to another successful hunter in more ways than one. Big bucks are fine, but people,
absolutely.
This is all about people, and it's all about our stories.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.